Hey everyone, I wanted to come on here and speak about switching timelines. So, when you have a spiritual awakening, essentially you're switching timelines, which means you're going into a new era, a new chapter of your life, and you're leaving a cycle and a chapter behind you. Um, so it's a new territory that you're in now because you have a greater perspective on life, on yourself, and on your soul's purpose and what you are here to do. But it doesn't mean that you still won't wear your emotions that you wore on your last time zone straight away into the new time zone. Meaning, like, you could still have a mind frame that centers still that's old and outdated to where you're going, and you can wear those emotions in that mind frame in the new timeline and not even realize it until like a spiritual awakening happens. And that's usually what triggers a spiritual awakening, is when you're going into a new era and a new chapter and a new timeline in your life. For an example, like if you were moved to move out of state, well, moving out of state automatically puts you into a new timeline. I mean, you can definitely expect to receive blessings in um, different social groups that you haven't been a part of, and new experiences when you switch states, right? That's like kind of like the obvious. But what people also don't know is that it's also a different timeline, like meaning like you're now ready to align with your purpose more so when you switch states. And sometimes, people could come into your life and trigger a spiritual awakening when you move into a different timeline, because you could still be wearing the mentality and emotions from your last timeline and not even know it. Because after a spiritual awakening, what people don't really talk about is the fact that it requires change after you have a spiritual awakening. And just because you have greater insight to who you are and like what is life, you have more questions, doesn't mean that you are exempt from doing the work in the 3D. Like, you're now knowing that there is a higher purpose, a higher realm in the 5D that you belong to. But then after that, you still have to do the groundwork and being able to utilize the information that you now have from having a spiritual awakening. And during a spiritual awakening, it's kind of like it's not much that you can do while in the midst of having a spiritual awakening. It's transitioning you into being in alignment with your soul's purpose. And so you have to kind of like just let that time period go, like, and feel every emotion that comes along with that period of having a spiritual awakening and not rush the process. But then after a spiritual awakening, you are required to make changes into your life. And, in order to make those changes, you need the right tools to be able to implement um, what it is that you need to do in order to pursue that timeline of your soul's purpose, right? So, what I mean is, like, you need to practice different spiritual practices like meditation. Like, what I realize is when you have a spiritual awakening, there's an aspect of you that you didn't know was there before. And usually one of your chakras is out of alignment. So if one of your chakras is out of alignment, then that means that you were kind of being deprived in a way, of information that you needed to have to be able to be your higher self and to be your successor self. And now that you have that knowledge, you have to kind of do the work and the 3D to put yourself back in alignment to pursue your soul's purpose after the spiritual awakening. So what I find is like eating clean is extremely important, because when you move into a different timeline after having a spiritual awakening, you're going to be inviting this new energy, right? Because you're going to be essentially a new you. Not to be cliche with the new year, new me, like, meme or whatever, but you are renewed in a sense where you are being rebirthed in a way where you now have greater insight to who you are. And so in order to like nurture that energy, you need to implement changes in your life, whether that is, recognizing the people that surround you and their intentions and purpose around you, or making sure that you're nurturing your body, because while your spiritual awakening is going on, you want to make sure that you nurture your body, because your body is going through the motions, it's going through these different intense energies that it hasn't gone through before. So you want to eat healthy, because you want to eat water-based food like watermelon, you want to eat kale, you want to eat just fruit, things that are consumed with water, because you want to cleanse your body of the old cycle, the old decisions, the old version of the decisions that you made before you had greater insight. And you want those things to just like naturally take its course out of leaving your system. And so you want to invite greater, better energy inside of you, so you want to make sure that you're not contaminating your body with processed foods and etc. Also, meditation is extremely important. And I find that, a lot of people really find it hard to meditate, and I completely understand, because I mean, I have like ADHD. It's hard for me to like sit in one place for too long. I have a mutable moon sign, and so it's kind of like it's an air sign. So it's kind of like it's hard for me to like not be thinking in my mind constantly, and creating peace within just stillness and quietness. But I have learned to master it and do it. And I find it very helpful and very useful, because what it does is it gives you the 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 chance to invite messages to receive from the universe, and also creates a space for you to just focus on just you. I mean, like when you are a part of the hustle and bustle every day, you're extending your energy, you're giving your energy off to different people, different places, and so your body doesn't get the rest that it needs completely. But when you meditate and you sit still and you allow these energies to leave your body, and for you to just be at a state of quietness and peace, you are able to really hear yourself and get in tune with your higher self. And, after a spiritual awakening, I find that, some people find it to be, I get questions like, it's pertaining to like them feeling like they have a huge responsibility to like make changes in their life when they're kind of fixed. And when I say fixed, I mean like when they have like, they're not used to change. And, I know that if you have a lot of fixed placements in your chart, then it's hard to implement change. But I have fixed placements in my chart too. But all that means is, after you have a spiritual awakening and you start to make these changes in your life, that people are going to meet a new you, but they're going to meet the truest version of the most authentic version of yourself, though. Like they're going to meet the person that has grown and has grown awareness of who they are. So we don't have to be, ashamed or down and out about making this process happen overnight, right? Because, it takes time to change, and to implement different practices that you have to practice daily throughout your life in order to make sure that you sustain that knowledge that you were blessed with by the divine. And so switching timelines, I find to be very important, because when you switch timelines, you're essentially like leaving behind old energy, and you're going towards the present, new, and the future energy. So you're wanting to make sure that you're also in the present. People like to look so far out to the future, or so behind them, that they forget about the middle ground. And the middle ground is the sweet savory part, right? It's the part where we can really embrace the moment, and take baby steps towards making the right changes to get closer to ourselves, to gain better clarity of who we are, you know and so I know that making those changes, aren't easy, because, well, you might not be super knowledgeable about where to go and what to do next. That's one thing, but it takes time. And that's why I say practices like meditation and eating healthy and clean gives you a greater chance of receiving messages from the universe, because you're cleansing your body and you giving your energy more space to make a new of, more energy, and cleansing out the things that you knew before. Um, I think it's just a really good thing to have a spiritual awakening. It could be very intense. Don't get me wrong. It could definitely be confusing, intense. It could be a lot. It could be a lot. You could be racking your brain for sure. But essentially, you're going into a new timeline, and you're on some different type of time now. So you're not going to feel the most comfortable. But what I find that now, the new generation is like a really good example of like stepping out of your comfort zone. I mean, you have people like traveling all around the world and stuff like that. They're posting it on social media, and they're stepping out of their comfort zone and their boundaries. And essentially, when you have a spiritual awakening, it's just giving you a chance to grow closer to loving yourself in the most authentic way, and stripping away all the things that aren't meant to be there, and all the things that are holding you back from seeing the truth of, your divine purpose. So, timelines is something that I think that we should talk more about, because it's exciting. It's like going from like the 5th year to the 10th year to the 10th year to the 15th year. It's sort of kind of like that. You can think of a timeline like that, and it's hard work to be able to make a new, of who you are, from what you've learned in the previous timeline. But you could definitely like still go into the new timeline wearing that old coat until someone comes up to you and be like, "Hey, did you know that you're wearing your old coat?" And then you're feeling like overwhelmed because you're like, "Oh, now I have to change my coat." And then that's when the spiritual awakening can happen. And that's just an analogy, an example of like a spiritual awakening, and also like being a part of a new timeline, and you not really knowing that you're a part of a new timeline until like something triggers you sometimes, to understand that. And you have to learn the hard way, because I also find that sometimes the divine in the universe does nudge you in different ways, but if you're not paying attention to the synchronicities, or if you're not sitting in meditation and quieting your brain, or if you're not eating clean, then it could sometimes be caused by a trigger. Like for me, for an example, I work really hard. I'm like considered a quote unquote workaholic. And so yeah, sometimes a trigger has to happen for someone who's a busybody, because you're not going to pay attention to the small details, and you're going to miss the flower on the ground that wanted you to see it, to appreciate life for what it is. Also, growing closer to nature is also extremely helpful. Nature can definitely, taking nature walks, appreciating the greenery around you, and even meditating outside. I mean, we can you can write down these things that I'm saying, because they're good practices for when you have a spiritual awakening, because you don't really have control over a lot of things that's going on while you're having a spiritual awakening. It's just one event happening after another. But you're not alone. You have the Perfect Escape YouTube channel. And that's what I'm here for. And yeah, timelines are extremely important. It's very exciting. A lot of times when spiritual awakenings happen, that means that new energy is about to come in, and you're about to receive new blessings in your life. You're about to experience new experiences that you haven't done before in your past timeline. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's actually a great thing when you experience a spiritual awakening and then get moved into another time zone, a timeline. Okay. So thank you so much, guys, for listening to my channel. I definitely will be talking to you soon, and I'm signing out. Bye.